Hi, it's Mark Coleman from Paul's Photo and the Creative Photo Academy, and we always get questions and we want to help you make better pictures. So you see my beautiful pictures like our trip to Yosemite, and you say, Mark, how do you get a print like this? Well, printing is a craft. It takes printing skill, Photoshop skill, but where you start is with exposure in the camera. And I can't stress enough how important it is to get the right exposure in the camera. So as beginners, we always take a picture and then look at the back screen and look at the screen on the back and say, ooh, that exposure looks good, but then are dismayed when it doesn't look like that on the computer. And that's the way it is. So how do you learn to judge the exposure? You have to start by looking at the histogram. So I'm gonna go to the playback mode here. And you see the playback, right? And on most cameras, you can hit a button, like on the Nikon, you can hit the up button and get the overview where you see the histogram. You go back, you see the regular view. There's a picture of Jerry. I'm gonna go up and you see the histogram. So you see that the histogram looks completely different on this picture than the one before. Or here, a picture of Bridgie. Go up, there's the histogram. So you see the histogram, this graphic display of the exposure. What causes the histogram to have the shape? The shape of the histogram is caused by the subject in the scene. Jerry had dark outfit with his light face. That gave you a big left-hand histogram and kind of petered off to the right. Bridgie had her gray outfit with a white background, so here her histogram was all off to the right. The Paul's Photo front of the store had a very jaggedy histogram because there was light from every different grayscale. So if you look at the histogram breaks down the 256 grays that we have in our digital image. This is the histogram line, and that's covered, or that's controlled by what is the subject of the picture. What's important to us in the histogram is the middle, which is our 18% gray. That's what we can control with the exposure, our light meter, our exposure compensation. The white end of the histogram, the right, that's white on the digital imaging chip. Whatever touches the right side will be white and can only be white. The left side of the histogram is black. Whatever touches the left side of the histogram is black and can only ever be black. So this is pretty much an ideal histogram. And if I was to take a picture, look at my histogram and see this, I would just go ahead and shoot the picture. But if my histogram didn't look like that, it looked like this, that tells me that I'm going to be losing black detail and have an abundance of white detail. So I could actually overexpose a little bit and shift the histogram to the right and get back to my normal histogram. Now, a lot of times when we're photographing outside, what we'll find is the histogram is going to look like this. So we're losing both white and black detail. Then it's up to you as the photographer to decide, where do I want the detail in my picture? And for me, compositionally wise, I find that having black areas in the picture are less offensive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift my exposure. I'm going to underexpose, shift the histogram so I lose more black detail and I protect the white. The histogram is complicated, exposure is challenging, and I know that I've given you a little bit today. Please take a look at the histogram. Come to boot camp, come to intermediate exposure class where we'll talk about this. We'll get you mastering controlling the light so that you can get the pictures you want and you can make beautiful prints like this. Remember, the exposure in your camera produces your file, your digital negative if you're shooting in RAW. That's like the steak. If you go to the market and buy a great steak, then you can come home, season it and cook it and have a great dinner. If you go to the market and buy a mediocre or poor steak, or you shoot a poor image with your digital camera, you can bring it into Photoshop and you can season it and cook it, and it might be okay, but it'll never be great. So use a great camera, do great exposures, and that's how you get great prints. Mark Coleman from Paul's Photo and the Creative Photo Academy wishing you a good day, and get those exposures and histograms right.